Well, hi all, and welcome to another AW interview. I'm Tim Adams, multimedia producer at AW, and today I'm joined by Imani-Lara Lansiquot, 4x100 meters relay Olympic bronze medalist, world silver medalist, and European champion, the fifth fastest British female in history. And Imani, now a playwright. It's been a pretty whirlwind few months.
It definitely has.
Now we're getting towards the end of 2021. You've had that experience of the first Olympics in Tokyo. You've got that bronze medal at Olympic level as well. And also, everything around off the track, which is pretty crazy that you've had the time, albeit you were pinged literally 2 hours into a hotel room in Tokyo, but you had the time to, be a playwright on top of the Olympic experience.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm one of those people that I do better with my running performances when I have something going on away from the track. For so long, I was in university, so I finished my degree in 2020, and that was really good for me to have that kind of release away from the track. So when I was in Tokyo, obviously I knew I was commissioned to write this play, but I left it till Tokyo on purpose because I knew that I really would have needed that balance, and also because I'm quite disorganized. Classic student. But I wanted to leave it till then so that I had that balance of training for something that was obviously really, really important and high pressured, but then also getting to express myself in a more creative way of my downtime. I didn't know that was going to be in isolation, I'm not going to lie, but it happened and probably was a blessing in disguise.
I was about to say, we always talk about, athletes and sports and everything around achievements and times and, splits and whatever. But then you go into the deeper kind of, I guess, echelons of what an athlete is about. At the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all have personalities off the track as well. And for you, writing was a big thing. And I think I'm right in saying as an 11-year-old, you wrote a note that you said you wanted to become Olympic champion and an author. You've done half of that now.
I know. I remember I was saying when everyone was clearing out their garages during the first lockdown and trying to reinvent their lives. This is what me and my dad were doing. And I remember finding this note and I was like, oh my God, I remember I really wanted to do this. But I was deep in dissertation city at that time. So I wasn't really thinking about it too much. And then as soon as I finished, I kind of put it out there that this is what I really want to do. I didn't think it was going to happen in a year, but what an amazing way to start my writing endeavors.
And, what was the reaction then, leading up to, the build up to this play then? What was the reaction to firstly getting pinged in Tokyo? And then how did you kind of think, actually, I've got some time here to potentially do what I've always wanted to do in, at an Olympic Games, which is kind of crazy saying it like that.
Yeah. It was really difficult those first few days when we got pinged because there wasn't necessarily a protocol for it. They weren't expecting that to happen because we didn't have COVID, but we were in close proximity with people of the general public on the plane. It was like they weren't sure if we were going to be able to compete. They weren't sure if we were going to be able to train. And there were so many question marks around everything. And we were only getting communicated with via Zoom. So again, we're just super ostracized, already in an ostracized group of Team GB away from the Japanese public and stuff. So the first few days, I'm not going to lie, were pretty tough. But one thing I did learn from my degree is that sports people usually, when their backs up or against the wall, will be quite calm because we're used to high pressure situations. And I do feel like I used it as an opportunity just to be as calm as possible because it was so completely out of my control. And I guess the writing for me, I had up to 20 hours at a time just in my room by myself with my thoughts, thinking, oh my God, how are the games going to go? Am I going to run? All these different things. And writing was just an amazing way for me to just let all of that go. And the play itself was a very, very personal piece. It was a monologue between the older and younger versions of myself getting ready for a sporting event. So 11-year-old me is getting ready for sports day and 23-year-old me is getting ready for the Olympic final. But there's so many emotions that underpin an athlete, a young athlete, and I explore that within the play. And I feel like it was so real time because of the fact that I was in it. I literally had nothing else to do but to be with my thoughts. So yeah, I was pretty proud of it.
So I'm right in saying it's called the Armor of Gaza. What was the inspiration behind the title?
So Peckham, obviously my hometown. You should know by now if you don't know. Peckham's my hometown. I'm very, very proud to be from there, but doesn't have the best reputation. And growing up, all like the guys around me would always call it Gaza. It's still what people call it now. You hear it in rap songs and stuff. And so I call it the Armor of Gaza because I feel like there's a certain type of personality or kind of hardness or steeliness that you do get from not growing up with a silver spoon in your mouth. And so that's the Yarma part of it. And then Gaza is kind of homage to my hometown. Sorry, Peckham.
And then this play, when you got back from Tokyo, it was performed in Peckham, if I'm right in saying as well. So it really did go full circle.
It was an immersive piece of theatre. So that was even better because I was talking about my experiences in Peckham whilst the audience was literally living and breathing and feeling everything that I was describing in the play. So it really was a great like marriage of the two really big parts of my life, where I'm from and what I do now. And even though they are quite in different postcodes, my heart is still kind of, it brings it together. So yeah, I was really, really proud of it. And it was sold out as well, which was amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was sold out. Well, hoping it gets picked up by a bigger theatre, but yeah, a great weekend of performances.
I was about to say, how many people went to watch it? Like, what was the reaction of the people? That, you know, did they give you any, you know, feedback on how it was for them?
So I went to watch it, but I wasn't sure if anyone knew that I'd written it. So I kind of like sat in the corner with my boyfriend and my dad, like, oh, I'm not sure. And a few people did actually come up to me and they said I was moved to tears. It was so emotional. It was really deep. And because it was part of a collection of other plays, I think my one stood out for being very, very personal and very, very emotional. Not in a bad way, just you could tell that I was speaking from the heart. And I had a lot of positive feedback from it. And it was very encouraging for me. You know, I realized that maybe this is something I could take super seriously alongside my athletics.
I was about to say, how easily does something like that come to you? Because I guess you can have ideas in your head about the themes and, you know, what you're expecting it to look like, but actually then having that tangible thing in front of you to then put forward to that, you know, that it can go onto stage is a different thing to actually having an idea in your head. It's actually going to be implemented at some point as well.
Yeah, so I was actually doing writing classes because I knew I've always loved writing, and I distanced myself from it a bit whilst I was obviously doing my degree. So I was doing these online writing classes with an amazing group of women. There's a swear word in the title of what they're called. It's called How to Write the Shit Away. You have to beat that out.
No, so it's okay. YouTube is fine with that kind of stuff. But
okay, cool, no problem.
Yeah, it's all
and it's an amazing weekly writing class I did for about 4 months, and we were encouraged to kind of write very freely. It was normally in poetry form, and the women would kind of share their pieces. And I just got a bit of confidence, even if what I wasn't writing was necessarily a whole play, just kind of having that experience and that every week I'm going to write something, having that discipline. When it came to writing the play, it was kind of just a longer version of that really for me. So it was like a Thursday night, which is when How to Write the Shit Away happens, but for a whole 2 weeks, which was kind of a dream for me, to be honest.
Did any of the group there go to see the play as well?
No, do you know what? I was so nervous. So I stopped doing the classes when I started getting into the season anyway. So I didn't let them know. However, I was so nervous about being the athlete that's writing. I didn't tell anyone that I was writing it. And I was sharing a room with Ashley Nelson in Tokyo, and she's like, where are you going off to? Like, and I'm like, I'm just writing. He's like, writing what? And I'm writing a play. He's like, what?
Oh, so wow. So like,
I didn't tell anyone until afterwards. No, because I was really nervous that it wasn't going to be good. It was my first time doing something like that. And even though I really enjoyed it, you're always apprehensive about people seeing you in a new light. Obviously, I'm the athlete, and then I was a student, and then to be the writer, I was really nervous. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone. I was just doing it in silence. And then when I read it to my boyfriend, he said, this is really good. I was like, okay, now I'll tell everyone. It's being shown in 2 weeks. I wrote a play. Do what you want with it.
And now you're here. And now you're doing this.
Now I'm here. So
you talk about like growing up in Peckham then, you know, you talk about, you know, not being fed with the silver spoon and whatnot. Kind of what attitudes and, you know, like values growing up did that teach you, not just in terms of your writing, but then also the athletic side as well?
Yeah, I think that I have to really thank my family for that, because it could have really gone one of two ways. I think I've always had this thing within me from a really young age that whatever I do, I'm going to be like the best version of myself at it. And hopefully that will be the best there is. That's always kind of my aim. I really want to shine in whatever room or whatever space that I'm in. And I think it's because I didn't have that luxury when I was younger. You kind of had to make a big effort to shine in less than fortunate circumstances. And a lot of people are always really surprised that I came from like a single parent council home in South London. But it's because even though it's a really big part of my journey and I'm very proud of it, I never let it define me. I'm always striving to be the best version of myself. So whether that is in the writing or with athletics or with my degree, that's really my motivation every single day. And I think that definitely was born out of being from Peckham.
I was about to say, how much of a motivation is that? Because the stereotype is that people who grow up in that kind of background are going to be a lot worse off than people who have that silver spoon. But actually, you know, it's society is not fixed. You know, everyone is unique in their own way and everyone can do what they want to do if they put their hard work into it.
Yeah. And I would say as well that it's not always a choice. Like if you're born into a disadvantaged situation, it's not a choice to be bad. We live in an unfair society. We talk about this all day and it is the way it is. And I think you do have to make that extra effort or be lucky enough, like I was, to have an amazing family that just constantly pushed me and never let me feel like I could be in one box. I could be in whatever box or whatever place I wanted to be in. So I'm really, really lucky for that. But I wouldn't say that it's a choice all the time. Sometimes it is a choice, but it is just what you're born into, really.
So talking about Tokyo then, because it's been a bit of a whirlwind journey, you know, going from, you know, world championships and European championships and medaling there in the relay teams, but obviously in the Olympic Games is an Olympic Games without a crowd or, you know, with a crowd. Obviously in Tokyo, it was the former. What was, you know, it like out in Tokyo once you kind of got out of isolation? And firstly, what was that isolation experience like? Because I'm right in saying you had training time, but it wasn't a lot.
So we were allowed to leave our rooms to train. We weren't allowed to train alongside the rest of the team unless it was relay practice. So the training for me, I've never loved training so much because it was the only time I could get out and actually see people. The training was really good and it was really focused, and the coaches were just brilliant out there at making sure, especially us isolated crew, were looked after when we were on the track. But other than that, I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really hard. We are people of routine. Athletes are people of routine, and we like to do things. Like, you know, some people wanted to eat their breakfast at 7:03 in the morning. We're those kinds of people, and suddenly all of that control is taken away in what feels like the most important 3 weeks of your life when you're preparing for an Olympic Games. So it was very, very difficult. Like I said, I was lucky I had the play to kind of keep me busy, but mentally it was probably the most. I had to be really controlled up here because everything around me felt really out of control, because for the first week we weren't even really sure if we were going to compete. It was really that serious. The Japanese government were really strict about everything, as they should have been, but it was difficult for us athletes at the time. And then of course we had a group chat called Quarantine with some of us that were in some of us that were nice.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
We were sending each other memes and stuff, just trying to like keep ourselves happy and light and whatnot, which was amazing. We came together as a little community. But also it was hard seeing people that were in isolation. Their competition happened within their isolation period, which was those 2 weeks, and they didn't do so well. And you're thinking, did they not do well because of the isolation? Is that going to happen to me? It was
the
all this insecurity.
Side of that really starts to kind of get going, because the relays, of course, are at the end. I mean, you know, you are the showpiece event at the end of the championships.
Exactly. And I literally had athletes speaking to me saying, well, the other people in isolation haven't done well. Some people have lost weight. Some people mentally have struggled. How are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. Luckily, the relays were at the end. And I'm not going to lie, when we came out of isolation, I remember, because that was the day we went to the Olympic Village. And it was just the best feeling. It was the best feeling ever. The village was just more than I could have ever really dreamed of it being. And that sounds really corny, but it genuinely is like nothing I've ever experienced before. It's like this huge village where you have people from different sports, from different places in the world, and they're all at the top of their game of what they're doing. And you just feel like you're in this really cool elite club. And yeah, I think if I was like younger, that would have been like, oh my God, this is so cool. But also trying to keep my professional head on. I'm trying to be cool and like calm with it. But it was awesome.
Still 23 to be fair, which is a bit crazy for me saying that as a 23-year-old myself, but still 23. So we're still young.
No, I genuinely feel like that's one thing that the general public, people that are interested in the Olympics, the Olympic Village is just like nothing I've ever experienced before. It was amazing, and it was nice as well that it coincided with my release from isolation prison too. I loved it, and we had really, really confident and consistent practices in the relay before we got there, so there wasn't that last minute panic feeling. We all felt really, really secure in what we were doing, and then obviously competing on the track. That stadium, by the way, was immense. It's such a shame that there weren't any crowds there, because my family would have absolutely loved it. It was incredible. And the track was super, super quick. They really did their best to put on a good games. It was difficult without the crowd, I won't lie, but we put our heads to the line and we got the job done.
Yeah, Hannah Cockcroft actually said something to me the other day. She said, Tokyo prepared everything, but they just couldn't do what, was out of their control. Essentially.
Yeah,
and it was a shame that that it felt like for her it felt like a Paralympics, but then it's when you actually get into the stadium and then you don't see the crowd and you think to yourself, oh, this is kind of when reality of the situation kind of hits quite heavily. Because I guess for you as well, you would have watched what happened in the races before you're actually competing in the relays, and I'm going to talk about I guess Daryll and Dina, obviously very contrasting emotions in their individual races. What was your reaction to both of them?
So I wasn't actually in the Olympic Village at the time. So I don't know if people know, but we were kind of drip fed into the village because of the whole isolation and COVID thing. So I came in, I think maybe a day or two after the 100-meter finals. Obviously, it was really difficult because I'm quite close with both of them, and you want everyone to do well. And we knew that as a team, we wanted everyone to be in their best possible form as well. It was extremely inspiring. Obviously, from Daryl's point of view, she did absolutely amazing. But it was really hard as well watching Dina do her interview and stuff, and kind of wanting to be a supportive teammate, but then also not wanting to put pressure on her. We didn't really know what the situation was in terms of her injury and how she was coming back, and not wanting to step on any toes and being really kind of considerate about that as well in terms of practices and whatnot. But overall, I think the women's 100 meters overall was just absolutely incredible. I mean, like 10:60 now, it sounds like a normal time now, but I remember at the time I was watching it with Ashley, I was watching it with Kat, and I was watching it with Kilty, and I remember saying, like, I can't believe that was just 1 in 10.6. Like, the goalpost has literally moved for women's for women's sprinting. It's just completely changed, and it probably was the most inspired. I had goosebumps everywhere, the most inspired I'd ever felt watching the athletics and thinking, I want to be there one day. That's where I want to be.
So quickly, and Dina, was there any point where you thought, oh, this is going to be difficult and she may not actually, compete in the relays? Because I guess there was always that thing, wasn't there? Because the relays were so much later than the 100s and the 200s that she would have that time to recover. But actually, from a standing start, it would be easier in terms of her injuries as well.
Yeah, I think she kind of had said in an interview that she was going to do the relays, and we knew that she's a fighter and she will turn up if she can. She's one of those people, she would never pull out if she didn't want to or she didn't have to. So we knew that she was going to do what she could. It was more so mentally, like you empathize with that kind of situation and not wanting, when we have our last practices before we go out there and our last practice as a team before we do the heat and whatnot, I didn't want her to feel like she had to overcompensate. It's just like the biggest, not trauma, but I just felt I felt bad for her. I felt sad for her, and I wanted her to feel like when she was around us, she could feel confident and happy, and we let her have her time. That was the most important thing, not rushing anything and being a team. That's the most important thing, really.
And I guess that team going into the relays, as you said, would have been so inspired by what happened, with the individual women's 100 meters, not just that Daryll got into that final, but also the caliber of women that she was up against in that final. I mean, the fact that, that wasn't even the quickest time of the entire year,
It's
And then
mad.
Elaine went 10:54 in, Eugene. I mean, what have you made of? Because Johan Blake said to me that it's just crazy, and he said the same thing, that the goalposts have moved, similar to the era of when he was with Usain and Justin and Tyson, and that this is that kind of era right now for the women. And the world champs are in Eugene next year. I mean, we could be looking at a world record potentially.
It's very, very possible. And I think it's always good when something like that happens, when the culture around a specific event changes. It's happened across different events, and I was waiting for it to happen in the women's one. And you have one of two choices, whether it's kind of stand in awe, which we all obviously were in awe, but then also to realize that, it's an opportunity for us all to level up and all try and push ourselves to be on that same level. I think I definitely, now I'm going into winter training and going into my sessions, understanding that things have changed, that the quality is so much higher now, and I'm so prepared to be a part of that. It was the same with like British female sprinting as well. Like when the change of culture happened with us, and now you have, I think, 4 of us in the top 5 of all time. That's crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's indicative of the fact that things have moved on, and you have to work harder, you have to push yourself to be up there, and that can only be a good thing moving forward.
And in terms of the relays themselves, then, how was that feeling? Because the final, you've seen the individuals, and then you see the likes of Elaine and Shelly Ann on the track, and you think to yourselves, okay, Jamaica is strong, the US are pretty strong, we've got a great team. And it was quite close between you and the States. There were like 4/10 between you and Silver.
Yeah, and do you know what? We did not have good changeovers in the final either. I think in my heart, I was going for gold, and we knew it was going to be tough because the Jamaicans were in such incredible shape. Obviously, they just taken 1, 2, and 3 in the women's one. We were going for gold. We knew we could get silver, and bronze for us was like, it was amazing to leave with a medal. And I remember Daryll and I after were like, oh my God, we got a medal, so exciting. But we knew we could have got silver. Our changeovers were not great in the moment. But testament to us, because how much we practice and how much confidence we have in each other. I don't think a lot of teams could have come back from how tight our changeovers were. So the fact that we were still able to cinch that medal with less than perfect kind of technical race just shows where we can really go in the next Olympic cycle.
So what was the feeling like running around the track then? Because obviously your major championship medals have come in the relays, but you've been in Berlin, you've been obviously, with the Worlds as well. How does the Olympics, I know there wasn't a crowd, but how did the Olympics compare to that? Just like, I guess in that moment when you're running, you're not thinking about anything else, but when, you've crossed that line, you've realized you've got the medal, it does kind of then really sink in. You're speaking to Jeanette Quatchy and Greg Rutherford, and you're thinking, wow, this is pretty cool.
You know what? It didn't even sink in then, I'll be so honest, because the adrenaline's high. You're in the moment as well. When you're doing a job like that, you're not thinking, oh my God, this is the Olympics, oh my God, it's Olympic medal. You're thinking, we just want to cross the finish line first. The same way I would if it was like a diamond league, if it was an open meet. It's the same mentality. It's the same. It's what I love about athletics.
Or a sports day, going back to your...
Or a sports day.
Yeah, going back to your play.
But it's the same feeling, essentially. You just want to win. You just want to cross the finish line first. And that's how it feels. It didn't really sink in for me, I'm not going to lie, until I was on holiday and the season was over, and I realized that I have this medal that is just such a huge, like, momentous thing in our sport, and it's something that I can show my children and my grandchildren, and an Olympic medal will never lose value. And I think that's what stuck with me. But in the moment, it sounds so weird, and I think maybe because there wasn't a crowd as well, we're so used to having big crowds with relays, it just felt like we were doing our job. That's what we always do. It could have been a Europeans, it could have been a Commonwealth, but it was the Olympics, and that's just where it happened to be. And I think that's a good mindset as well. You don't adjust yourself. You just stand up and you perform wherever you are.
Yeah, and you're talking about not being defined from where you are, but I guess it's the case of being defined from what you've achieved. And actually, the fact that you now have this tangible medal to show, the next generation of, sprinters and the next generation of athletes, then your friends and family, that you think to yourself, do you think to yourself you've made it, or is it the case that, you want to get that gold medal at an Olympic Games, but also, the opportunities of, Commonwealth Games are coming up at home next year as well. You can complete the set essentially if you get a medal there as well. it's, you know, some pretty cool opportunities coming up, especially with the European and the Worlds and the Commonwealth in 2022.
Yeah, there are some amazing opportunities. And from a relay perspective, we definitely will be pushing forward for different colours now. We know that we're good enough to be top 3 in the world, but can we be top 2? Can we be the best in the world is the next question. From a personal perspective, I definitely don't feel like I've made it. I always feel like I'm at the beginning of learning something new, because I just feel like every athlete kind of has a feeling of how good they know they can be. And I really see myself individually pushing to be one of the best in the world. And I know it's a long journey, and I've got a lot of respect for that journey, but I definitely don't feel like I'm close to have made it yet. It's a continuous learning process, but I'm definitely strong in belief that I'll make it.
So in terms of times, then you're looking at Dina, obviously 1083, Daryll 1093. I guess sub 11 must be a pretty big goal for you coming up.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a big goal for me probably since I was about 18. And if I'm honest, I feel like when I was younger, I put too much weight onto it, and it kind of made it this big thing. But now we have 2 women that have gone sub 11. You know, you realize, well, why can't that be me as well? I know it can be me. And so I kind of don't focus on that number too much. It's more just the caliber of athlete I want to be, which is, like I said, one of the best in the world, top 5, top 3 in the world. That's where I really want to see myself going to. Times will come with that. So it's just about having the behaviors and the routines that are going to set me up for that in the future.
I was about to say, I guess that's the mindset, because Daryll said the same to me as well. You know, she said the mindset of actually, if you think about the time, you're not going to get it. If you think about the technique, and you think about the training, and you think about that free flowing motion, and you know, the time will come, because at the end of the day, if you get the right wind, especially, then you know you're more likely to achieve that.
Exactly. I
And
really like this quote that says there's no such thing as luck. It's about preparation meeting opportunity. And if you're prepared for a time or something like that, it will come to you because you prepared for it. You can't have all the focus be on the outcome without the focus being on the preparation. And so that's something that I definitely live by, and I've learned not the hard way. It's not been that long, and I'm not old or anything like that. But like I said, when I was 18, it was right. I've run 11:1. I'm one of the fastest teenagers ever. Okay, 10:9, and I put too much focus on that. And now I kind of realized, well, of course I'm capable of doing that. So that's not my focus anymore. How can I do the smaller blocks in between to make sure that I'm even better than I could ever imagine?
Well, I guess going back to what I said earlier, that most of your success has come into the relays. Now is the individual part of your career that you really want to get going. And I guess you should see somebody like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who's 34, 35, who's had a kid, who's come back from that and has set a new personal best. I mean, that must be so inspiring to, you know, watch her.
And she's so humble as well. And she's just a really like bright light and a bright person to be around. Like, I haven't even met her that many times, but every time I have, she is just so kind and so nice. And what a huge role model for the next generation of sprinters. The fact that she's been the best in the world, had a baby, come back, and then is setting new personal bests that are literally ranking her in the top 3, 4 all time. That's amazing. So it's not even just her performances. Of course, she's incredible, but her character is something that I definitely take inspiration from. Very positive person.
Just finishing off then, do you have any inspirations in your career in terms of people, or is it more inspirations in terms of, I mean, you mentioned quotes. I'm guessing you're pretty philosophical when it comes to thinking about life. I mean, I know you mentioned star signs before going on the call as well. So
you must have had like red flags. You know on Twitter where it's like you have the red flags meme.
The new meme.
Yeah, I'm definitely a star signs kind of girl.
So I'm guessing you must be pretty philosophical then about, you know, what you want to get into and how you want to approach things in life as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I am one of those people that can be inspired by anyone and everything. It's not just like, who's the fastest person in the world? Okay, I'm inspired by them. I could literally be inspired by a local coach down at my local track, just their attitude, someone that leaves no stone unturned in whatever field they're in is what literally inspires me, because that's how I want to be. I also want to have like an abundant mindset, like someone that doesn't feel like, I don't know, I can only do one thing, or there's only space for one. Like, I genuinely believe that there's space for everyone to do everything, hence why I decided to write a play at the Olympics. And I just have that mindset of kind of growing as far and as wide as I possibly can do. And I think those two things, being open to learning from everyone, and then also realizing that I can be whoever I want to be and do whatever I want to do, and there isn't just space for one person to do it, is probably what helps me be the athlete that I want to be.
And of course, we now have social media to provide that, essentially, because
Yeah.
you are literally, you're not going through, I mean, ironically, here you are going through a kind of a media channel, but you are going through your own channel, and you can be your authentic self, and you have that self-control of what people want to see, or sorry, what you want people to see when you post things out. And that must be pretty cool to have that as an athlete with a voice like that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, like growing up, I didn't really have that because social media wasn't the same as it is now. So of course you see, especially in athletics, you see like your favorite athletes competing in the summer, but you don't really know what's happening in the winter training, what it feels like, what motivational quotes that they're taking to help them for a difficult session. And so I hope that I can be that inspiration for a younger version of myself, because it wasn't there when I was younger. It was there, but it wasn't as easily accessible. And I feel like we do have a responsibility to kind of nurture and educate and inspire the next generation, because we want our sport to be as big as possible.
100%. And talking of the future then, what are your goals for next year and beyond?
Gosh.
It's quite an open question to end on.
It is a very open question. I think overall, I really want to start kind of maximizing on my potential. I was speaking to my coach about it. It's a lot to say. I've got a lot of talent. Obviously, I was like really good when I was young, and I'm really ready to kind of make that next step and make the right sacrifices and push myself now. I want to get an individual medal. I want to really start to establish my name in the senior global female sprinting stage. And of course, pick up some relay medals as well. I think there's some amazing opportunities coming for us as a team. And away from that, I would love to have some more published works of writing out there. Writing is definitely something that I didn't realize I could be good at, but after my play, I was like, maybe we can kind of look into this a bit further. So I would love to start writing something that hopefully I can publish one day and it can be of help to someone.
Well, Johan Blake said to me a few weeks ago that he wants to be a movie actor in the future. So you never know. You could partner up with each other.
The possibilities are endless. I'll write the script.
And you write the scripts, he can act. Amazing.